The message came through the old relay station on a frequency nobody used anymore. Captain Min stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable and stared at the screen. The translation was rough, broken in places, but the meaning was clear enough. Someone was dying out there. A lot of someones. "Play it again," he said. The communications officer touched her console. Static filled the bridge, then a voice. It sounded strange, like wind chimes and bells mixed together. "This is Ambassador of the People. We are under attack. The swarm has come to our worlds. We cannot stop them. Our defenses fail. Our people die. Please, anyone who receives this message, we beg for help. We are at coordinates," more static. Then silence. Commander stood beside Min. She had fought in the resource wars back on Earth. She knew what desperation sounded like. "Sir, we should respond." "We don't even know who they are," said Lieutenant One from the weapons station. "Could be a trap." "Could be," Min agreed. He looked at the star map. The coordinates were 3 weeks away at full speed. 3 weeks there, 3 weeks back. If they went, they would be gone for months. But that didn't sound like a trap. That sounded like someone watching their world burn. Dr. Jin entered the bridge. She was young for a chief medical officer, but she had steady hands and a good heart. "I heard the message in Medical Bay. Are we going?" "That's not my decision," Min said. "That's Earth's decision." He sent the message back home. It took 6 hours for the signal to reach Earth Command. 6 more hours for the response. Min spent those 12 hours reading everything they had about deep space. There was not much. Humanity had only left their solar system 30 years ago. They had found empty worlds, old ruins, and silence. They thought they were alone. Now they knew different. The response came from Admiral Han himself. The old man's face filled the screen. He looked tired. "Captain Min, Earth Command has reviewed the distress signal. We are authorizing a response mission. You will take a fleet of 5 ships. The Indomitable will lead. The carriers and will provide fighter support. The frigates and will provide escort." Min felt his chest tighten. 5 ships, 2,000 people. "Sir," he said carefully, "we don't know what we're flying into. We don't know if we can help." "No, we don't," Han said. "But we know what happens when good people do nothing. You have your orders, Captain. Bring our people home safe. And if you can, bring those aliens home safe too." The screen went dark. It took 2 days to gather the fleet. Min called a meeting with all the ship captains. They met in the Indomitable's briefing room. Captain Borovdi arrived first. She was a fighter pilot before she became a captain. She still flew sometimes just to keep her skills sharp. Captain Wu of the came next. He was quiet, thoughtful. The frigate captains, Ho and Ira, were twins. They finished each other's sentences. "We're really doing this?" Bora asked. "Flying into unknown space to fight unknown enemies for unknown aliens?" "Yes," Min said simply. "Good," she grinned. "I was hoping you'd say that." They spent 3 days planning. Dr. Jin prepared medical supplies. She didn't know what alien biology looked like, but she packed everything she could think of. Lieutenant One checked every weapon system twice, then checked them again. Commander drilled the crew on emergency procedures. Lieutenant Jinwoo, the young pilot, came to Min's office the night before they left. "Sir, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why are we doing this? These aliens, they're not our people. We don't owe them anything." Min leaned back in his chair. "You're right, we don't owe them anything. But let me ask you something. If you were dying and you sent out a call for help, would you want someone to answer?" Jinwoo thought about it. "Yes, sir." "Then that's why." The fleet left Titan Station on a Tuesday morning. Earth time, anyway. Time didn't mean much in space. Min watched his home station shrink in the rear view. He wondered if he would see it again. The journey took 23 days. They traveled through empty space, past dead stars and frozen rocks. On the 19th day, they picked up another signal. This one was not a distress call. It was a battle report. The translation was better this time. The voice belonged to someone named Admiral. All coalition forces fall back to defensive line 7. Repeat, fall back. The swarm has broken through Sector 9. We cannot hold them. Coalition said, there's more than one species. Sounds like it, Min said. He increased speed. The ships pushed their engines hard. They had to arrive soon or there might be no one left to save. On day 23, they entered the system. What they saw made them stop. The space was full of ships, hundreds of them. Some were beautiful with curved hulls and glowing lights. Others looked like flowers made of metal, but they were all running, all retreating, and behind them came the swarm. The ships looked like insects, dark and chitinous, with too many legs and mandibles that could crush metal. There were thousands of them. They moved together like a school of fish, all turning at once, all attacking as one. My God, whispered. Min opened communications. This is Captain Min of the United Earth ship Indomitable. We received your distress call. We're here to help. There was a long silence. Then a new voice came through, speaking careful, accented English. This is Admiral of the Galactic Coalition. You are human, from Earth. Yes. Another pause. You should not have come. Your ships are too small. You will die here. Min looked at his crew. They looked back at him. Not one of them looked afraid. Maybe, he said, but we're here anyway. Tell us where you need us. The first battle was about to begin. Admiral looked nothing like Min expected. The alien appeared and for a moment, nobody on the bridge knew what to say. Had 4 arms, skin that shimmered like oil on water, and eyes that were too large and too kind. You actually came, said, and his voice carried something that might have been hope. When I saw your ships on sensors, I thought perhaps my mind was failing. We're real, Min said, and we're ready to fight. Fight? Upper arms made a gesture that the translator couldn't interpret. You have 5 ships, the swarm has thousands. You do not understand, they do not stop, they do not negotiate, they only consume. Then we'll make them choke, Commander said from beside Min. Stared at her. You speak of violence so easily. Violence is easy, replied. It's peace that's hard. The coalition fleet held position near the 4th planet. Min could see them on sensors now. 47 ships from different species, all beautiful, all retreating. The human ships looked brutal next to them. All sharp angles and heavy armor. No elegant curves, just function and firepower. We should meet, Min said. Face to face, plan our strategy. Strategy? Sounded confused. We have only one strategy. We defend until our shields fail, then we retreat. We have been retreating for 6 months. Then it's time to try something new, Min said. The meeting took place on a coalition station near the planet. Min brought Commander, Dr. Jin, and Lieutenant 1. When they stepped off their shuttle, they found themselves surrounded by aliens. So many aliens, tall ones, short ones, ones that floated, ones that crawled. They all stared at the humans. One alien who looked like a walking crystal reached out a hand to touch face, stood very still. Fascinating, the crystal alien said. You are solid, dense, heavy. How do you even move? Carefully said. Met them in a large chamber. The gravity was lighter than Earth normal. Min felt like he could jump over a building. The other aliens seemed comfortable. Please, said, sit. We have much to discuss. They sat at a table that looked like it was grown rather than built. Had food brought out. The humans looked at the dishes and couldn't identify a single thing. You honor us, Min said carefully. He didn't want to offend. Dr. Jin pulled out a scanner. She waved it over the food. Captain, these dishes contain compounds that are toxic to human biology. Every alien in the room went very still. Toxic, said. I am so sorry, I did not mean to poison you. It's fine, Jin said. You didn't know. She pulled out a ration pack from her bag. We brought our own food. She opened the pack. The smell of coffee and spiced meat filled the room. 3 aliens immediately fainted. 2 more ran from the room. Skin turned a color that the humans had no name for. "What is that?" he gasped. "Coffee and beef jerky," Jin said. "It's just food." "That is death," said. "I can smell the toxins from here, the stimulants, the capsaicin. How are you not dying?" Lieutenant One laughed. This is mild. You should taste the hot sauce we have back on Earth." "Your world must be a nightmare," whispered. "It's home," Min said quietly. The meeting continued, though the aliens insisted the humans eat in a separate room. They discussed tactics, or tried to. Every time Min suggested something aggressive, the aliens recoiled. Board enemy ships, impossible, ramming speed, insanity, fight at close range, suicide. "How do you fight it all?" finally asked, frustrated. "We maintain our shields," explained. "We fire from long range. When our shields weaken, we retreat to recharge them. This is how civilized species conduct warfare." "And how's that working out?" asked. "Silence." "Perhaps," said carefully, "you could show us your methods." The demonstration happened the next day. A small scout group appeared at the edge of the system, 12 ships. The coalition fleet immediately began to fall back. The human fleet moved forward. "What are they doing?" Watch from his command ship. "They have no shields." The Indomitable accelerated. Behind it, fighters launched from the end. 50 small craft moving fast headed straight for the. Lieutenant Jinwoo was among them. He had never fought real combat before. The simulators were one thing. This was different. His hands shook as he gripped the controls. Then his squadron leader's voice came through. "Remember your training, watch your six, and if you get hit, make it count." They opened fire. Their weapons were organic, spitting acid and spines. The human fighters dodged, weaved, and returned fire. Rail guns and missiles. Simple, brutal, effective. Jinwoo's fighter took a hit. Acid ate through his port wing. He felt the ship start to spin. For a moment, panic seized him. Then he saw a ship ahead. Large, important looking. "This is Jinwoo," he said into the radio. "I'm hit, going out on my terms." "Negative," his squadron leader shouted. "Eject." "No ejection pods in range," Jinwoo said. It was true, he was too far from the fleet. "But I can reach that big one." He pointed his dying fighter at the ship and pushed the throttle to maximum. On the coalition command ship, watched the human fighter accelerate. Watched it slam into the vessel. Watched both ships explode in a ball of fire. "He killed himself," whispered. "He deliberately killed himself." "He took one of their command ships with him," said another coalition officer. "But he died, he chose to die." On the Indomitable, Min heard the report. Another pilot gone. He closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them. "All fighters continue the attack. Make his sacrifice count." The battle lasted 14 minutes. When it was over, all 12 ships were destroyed. The human fleet had lost 5 fighters and taken moderate damage. The coalition fleet had not fired a single shot. Contacted the Indomitable. His face on the screen looked shocked. "You won." "We did what we came here to do," Min said. "But your people died, 5 of them." Yes, Min felt the weight of it. 5 families back on Earth would get messages. 5 empty bunks in the barracks. War has a cost. "I do not understand," you said. "You come to help strangers. You fight without shields. You sacrifice yourselves. What kind of species are you?" Min thought about Earth, about the storms and the predators and the diseases, about the wars humanity had fought against each other, about everything that made humans what they were. "We're the species that survives," he said, "no matter what it takes." The main fleet arrived 3 days later, not dozens of ships, not hundreds, thousands. They filled the sensors like a swarm of locusts blotting out the stars. Sergeant stood in the Marine barracks, checking her squad's equipment. 20 Marines, all volunteers, all ready to do something the coalition said was impossible. They were going to board a hive ship. "You really think we can pull this off?" Private Min asked. He was young, maybe 20. This was his first deployment. We don't have to think, said. We just have to do. The plan was simple. The Indomitable would get close to a hive ship, very close. The Marines would launch in boarding pods, cut through the hull, and destroy the ship from inside. Captain Min had explained it to Admiral, who had simply stared in horror. You cannot, had said. No species has ever attempted boarding actions. The ships are filled with acid. The corridors are death traps. You would be slaughtered. Probably, Commander had agreed. But one hive ship controls hundreds of smaller vessels. Kill the hive and those ships lose coordination. They become easy targets. But your people will die. Yes, said. Some will, but others will live because of it. Now and her squad sat in the boarding pod, waiting for launch. The pod was barely large enough for all of them. It smelled like sweat and fear, and the cheap coffee from the mess hall. 30 seconds, the pilot said. Checked her weapon one more time. It was a simple rifle, nothing fancy, but it would fire in zero gravity, in acid rain, in vacuum. Human weapons didn't care about environment. They just worked. Launch. The pod shot from the Indomitable like a bullet. Through space, dodging fire, heading for the massive hive ship, felt her stomach drop. Then the pod hit the hull. Metal screamed. Cutting torches activated automatically. The pod's drill bit into the alien ship. 10 seconds to breach. Raised her rifle. The other Marines did the same. The front of the pod exploded inward. Beyond it was darkness and a smell like rotting meat. Jumped through, her suit's lights cutting through the gloom. She found herself in a corridor that looked like it was made from bones and chitin. The walls moved. They were alive. Go, 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 she shouted. The squad poured in. Behind them, 2 more boarding pods attached and breached. 60 Marines now, inside the belly of a monster. They came from everywhere. They moved on too many legs, with claws like swords and mandibles that could crush a person in their armor. But the Marines had fought in the tunnels of Mars during the resource wars. They knew close combat. They knew how to fight in the dark. Put 3 rounds through the head of a soldier. It fell, 2 more came. She dropped one, Min got the other. The squad moved forward, clearing room by room. The ship was a maze, but they had a tracker. It pointed toward the central chamber, toward the Hive Queen. On the Indomitable, Dr. Jin worked in medical bay. The first wounded came in from the fighter squadrons. She had never seen injuries like this. Acid had eaten through armor and flesh. One pilot had lost his entire arm. I need more plasma, she shouted to her nurses. We're running low, Nurse said. Then synthesize more. An alarm sounded, more wounded coming in. Jin looked up as they carried in Lieutenant One. Half his face was burned. He was unconscious. She ran to him, scanner in hand. How is he alive? De whispered. He's lost 40% of his blood. Because he's human, Jin said. She started treatment. Her hands moved fast, practiced. And humans don't die easy. One's eyes fluttered open. The ship. The ship is fine, Jin lied. It wasn't fine. The Indomitable had taken heavy damage, but one didn't need to know that. Rest. Can't rest, one mumbled, still fighting. He tried to sit up. Jin pushed him back down. You're in no condition. We're all in no condition, one said. But we fight anyway, that's what we do. Inside the hive ship, squad had lost 7 Marines, 13 left. They stood outside the central chamber. Beyond that door was the Queen. They could feel her presence. It was like standing next to a furnace, hot and overwhelming. Charges ready? Asked. Ready, confirmed Corporal Dongjun. On 3, 1, 2. The door exploded inward. The squad rushed through. The chamber beyond was enormous, and in the center, surrounded by thousands of smaller, was the Queen. She was the size of a bus, all claws and teeth and rage. Target acquired, said into her radio. Beginning assault. The battle was chaos. The smaller threw themselves at the Marines, fired until her rifle clicked empty, then drew her pistol. When that ran dry, she drew her knife. Beside her, Min fought with his bare hands after his weapons jammed. Dongjun detonated charges that brought parts of the ceiling down on the swarm. But there were too many. For every they killed, 3 more appeared. Felt claws rake across her back. Her armor held but barely. She spun and stabbed upward, finding something soft. The fell. "We're not going to make it," Min shouted. "Yes, we are," shouted back, "because failure isn't an option." She looked at the queen, looked at the explosive charges Dongjun had been carrying, had an idea, probably a stupid idea, but stupid ideas were better than no ideas. "Cover me," she yelled. She ran straight toward the queen. Soldiers tried to stop her. Her squads covering fire kept them back, just barely, reached the queen's platform and jumped. Her suit's jets fired, lifting her up. The queen's head turned toward her. Mandibles opened, revealing teeth like swords. Through the charges, they stuck to the queen's carapace. The queen shrieked. "Detonate," shouted. The explosion threw her backward. She hit the wall hard enough to crack her visor. Through blurred vision, she saw the queen fall, saw the smaller stop moving, saw them collapse like puppets with cut strings. "Hive Queen down," she said into her radio. "Repeat, Hive Queen down." On the Indomitable's bridge, Min heard the report. "Pull them out now." The boarding pods launched in reverse, pulling the surviving Marines from the dying ship. 9 made it out, was the last one in. Her armor was barely holding together, but she was smiling. "We did it," she said. "You did more than that," Min said. "Look." On the main screen, the fleet was in chaos. Without the Hive Queen's coordination, the ships attacked each other, crashed into asteroids, fired blindly. The Coalition fleet, inspired by the human example, had stopped retreating. They were fighting back. Admiral appeared on the. His face showed something humans recognized. It was wonder. "You boarded them," he said. "You actually boarded them and won." "Just another day's work," said from her spot in Medical Bay, where Dr. Jin was patching her up. "No," said quietly, "not just another day. This is the day we learned that monsters can bleed. This is the day we learned what can do." Min asked. "That is what we will call you," said, "because you come from a world of death and you bring death to our enemies. You are the, and we thank the stars you are on our side." The war changed after the first Hive Queen died. They, for the first time in their long history, knew fear, but fear made them desperate. Desperate enemies were the most dangerous kind. Commander stood on the bridge of the heavy cruiser Seoul. After the Indomitable took too much damage, Captain Min had transferred command duties while his ship underwent repairs. Now led the fleet's vanguard. She studied the tactical display. They were gathering at their staging world, every ship they had left, all concentrating in one system. "They're going to make a final stand," she said to her tactical officer. "Or a final attack," Lieutenant Wu replied. "Intel says they're preparing to swarm the one massive assault. If they succeed, they'll wipe out the entire species." Clenched her jaw. In 3 months of fighting, she had seen what they did to conquered worlds. Nothing survived. Not people, not animals, not even the plants. Just empty husks of planets stripped of all life. "Then we stop them here," she said. "Send word to the fleet, we're going in." The combined human and coalition fleet gathered. 52 ships now. The coalition had built 5 new vessels using human design principles. Heavy armor, powerful weapons, no shields. The aliens were learning. Admiral Han contacted from his flagship. The old admiral had come from Earth with reinforcements after the first victories. He looked tired. This war was wearing on everyone. "Commander," he said, "they have 300 ships around their staging world. We have 52. The mathematics are not in our favor." "Since when do we care about mathematics?" asked. Han smiled. It was a sad smile. "Since I have to write letters to families back home, since I have to tell parents their children died in a war that isn't even ours." "It is ours," said quietly. "The moment we answered that distress call, it became ours." The fleet entered the system on a Tuesday. At least, it was Tuesday on Earth. Time meant less and less the longer they stayed in space. What mattered was the mission. What mattered was surviving long enough to complete it. Lieutenant Jinwoo, now a squadron commander after his previous leader died, led 40 fighters from the carrier. He had lost so many friends in this war. Every face in his squadron was new except three. Three survivors from the original group that arrived with the Indomitable. "Remember," he said over the squadron channel, "we're not here to win pretty. We're here to win, period. Hit hard, hit fast, and watch each other's backs." "Yes, sir," came the chorus of responses. The battle began at 700 hours. They came at them like a wave. The human ships drove forward to meet them. In the old days, 3 months ago, the coalition would have retreated. Now they held the line beside the humans. They had learned courage from the. Watch the tactical display. All ships pattern Delta, hit their left flank, roll through, reform on the far side. The fleet moved as one. They were no longer 5 separate ships fighting alone. They were a fist, and they knew how to punch. The left flank collapsed, pressed the advantage. "Boarding teams, you're up." Sergeant launched from the Soul with her Marines. 3 months ago, she had 20 Marines in her squad. Now she had 40. The coalition had asked to learn human boarding tactics, had taught them. 10 of her Marines were not human. They were seeking revenge for their burned worlds, had taught them how to fight like. The boarding pods hit a battleship, was first through the breach. A young soldier named was right behind her. They looked like they were made from moonlight and silk. Fragile, but fought with the fury of someone who had lost everything and refused to lose anything more. "Clear left," shouted in accented English. "Clear right," responded another Marine. They pushed into the ship. They fought hard, but they were not prepared for mixed-species teams. The humans brought brutality. They brought speed. Together they were unstoppable. In space, the battle raged. Ships exploded. Lives ended. Captain Min, back in command of the repaired Indomitable, saw his friend Captain Bora's ship take a direct hit. The hull split open. Escape pods launched, but not enough. Never enough. "Damn it," Min whispered. "Sir," his communications officer said, "Captain Bora is hailing us." "Put her through." Bora's face appeared. Half the screen was static. She was bleeding. Behind her, fire consumed her bridge. "Min, I'm going to ram them." "No, eject. We'll pick you up." "Too late for that. Too many pods damaged." She smiled. It was the same smile she had worn when they left Titan Station all those months ago. "Make sure you win. Make sure this matters." Bora. The screen went dark. Min watched the accelerate, watched it slam into a hive carrier. Both ships vanished in an explosion that lit up the entire battlefield. "Note her sacrifice," Min said quietly. "All ships continue the attack, make it matter." The battle lasted 7 hours. When it was over, the staging world burned. Their fleet was destroyed, but the cost was horrific. Of the 52 ships that entered the system, only 37 left. The human fleet had lost 900 people. The coalition had lost 2,000. Among the dead were Captain Bora, Lieutenant Wu, Corporal Dongjun, and countless others whose names Min knew by heart. That night the fleet held a memorial service. Humans and aliens gathered together. They had started this war as strangers. Now they were something else. Not quite family, but close, bonded by blood and sacrifice. Admiral Han stood before them all. His voice carried through every ship in the fleet. "We came to answer a distress call. We came because it was right. We stayed because we are human, and humans do not abandon those who need us. Today we lost friends, brothers, sisters, but we won. They are broken. The people will survive, and it is because of all of you." Stood in the crowd, her arm around Young. The child was only 12 years old. She had lost her parents in the first attacks, had promised to keep her safe. It was a promise she intended to keep. Is it over? Asked. Looked at the stars, at the battered fleet around them, at the survivors who had given everything they had. Yes, she said, I think it is. Then what happens now? Standing nearby, answered. Now we rebuild. Now we show the galaxy that don't just know how to destroy, we know how to create too. Dr. Jin moved through the crowd checking on wounded. 3 months of war had changed her. She had seen too much death, caused too much of it herself when she took up weapons during boarding actions. She was no longer the pacifist who had left Earth, but she was not broken, just changed, forged in fire like steel. We did good, she said to no one in particular. Min heard her. We did what we had to. Is there a difference? He thought about it, about Bora's sacrifice, about the 900 humans who would never see Earth again, about the aliens who learned courage from watching humans die. I don't know, but I hope so. The fleet began the long journey home. They carried their dead, their wounded, and their hope. Behind them, the people started to rebuild, and in the darkness between stars, the galaxy began to understand what it meant when said hello. The Galactic Coalition convened 6 weeks after the battle. Every species sent representatives to the ancient station at the galaxy's core. It was the first time the full coalition had gathered in 300 years. They came because they had to decide something important. They had to decide what to do about humanity. Captain Min stood in the waiting chamber with Ambassador. She was human, but she had been born on a colony ship and raised among aliens. She understood both worlds. She was supposed to speak for humanity today, but she looked nervous. They're afraid of us, said. I know, Min replied. Some want to reject our membership. They say we're too violent, too dangerous. Are they wrong? Looked at him, are we? Before Min could answer, the chamber doors opened. They walked into a vast hall. It looked like the inside of a star, all light and impossible geometry. 47 species sat in judgment. Min saw Admiral among them. The old Admiral nodded slightly, a small gesture of respect. The speaker, an ancient being that looked like living crystal, addressed them. Its voice resonated in frequencies that humans could barely hear. The translator rendered it into words. We gather to discuss humanity's petition to join the Galactic Coalition. Who speaks for them? Ambassador stepped forward. I do. Then speak. Took a breath. 6 months ago you sent a distress call. You were dying. Your people were being slaughtered. You called into the void, hoping someone would hear. We heard. We came. We fought. We bled. We died. Not because we knew you. Not because we owed you anything, but because it was right. A member of the spoke. You also brought violence, death. You board ships. You fight hand to hand. You sacrifice yourselves. These are not the ways of civilized species. No, agreed. They're not. They're the ways of survivors. You asked for help. We gave you what we had. If that makes us uncivilized, then perhaps civilization is overrated. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some angry, some thoughtful. Admiral stood. May I speak? The speaker gestured assent. I was there, said. I saw the humans arrive. I thought they would die. Their ships had no shields. Their tactics were insane, but they won and they taught us to win. Before humans, we had been retreating for 6 months. After humans, we advanced. They did not ask for payment. They did not ask for territory. They asked only to help. And when I asked one of them why, a human name told me, because someone had to. I submit that any species willing to die for strangers is exactly the kind of species we want in this coalition. More murmurs. A member of the species spoke. But what happens when they turn this violence on us? What happens when they decide we are the enemy? Ambassador looked at Min. He nodded. He had expected this question. May I answer? He asked. The speaker gestured again. Min walked to the center of the hall. He was tired. 6 months of war had aged him, but his voice was steady. You want to know if we'll turn on you, if we'll become the next. I understand the fear, but let me tell you about humanity. We are violent, yes. We are dangerous, yes, but we are also fiercely loyal. We protect what is ours. And if you let us into this coalition, you become ours, all of you. We will fight for you. We will die for you. Not because you ask, but because that is what we do. You want proof? Look at the orphanages we're building. Look at the schools. Look at the hospitals. We are good at war, but we are better at peace. Give us a chance to prove it. Silence filled the hall. Then a small voice spoke. Min turned. It was the young girl. She stood with Sergeant, who had brought her as a witness. "May I speak?" asked. The speaker looked surprised. "You are a child." "I am a survivor," said. "Because of humans. My parents died when they came. I was alone. Sergeant found me. She could have left me. She had a mission, but she stayed. She fought to keep me safe. And when the battle was over, she promised to help rebuild my world. She kept that promise. All the humans did. They are not monsters. They are heroes." Looked uncomfortable. She had never thought of herself as a hero, just a soldier doing her job, but words carried weight. The coalition members whispered among themselves. The vote took 3 hours. When it finished, the speaker announced the result. By a vote of 39-8, humanity is admitted to the Galactic Coalition, but with conditions. Conditions asked. You will be designated as guardian species. Your role will be to protect the coalition from external threats. You will train our people in your methods of warfare, and you will help us build defenses so that we never face extinction again. Min felt something in his chest. Relief maybe, or pride. We accept. Then welcome, the speaker said. Welcome, may your violence be always in defense of life. The years that followed changed everything. Human military academies opened on 12 worlds. Aliens learned human tactics. Humans learned alien technology. The two sides merged, creating something new, something stronger. Lieutenant Jinwoo, promoted to commander after the war, led a mixed squadron. Half human, half alien. They flew together, fought together, trusted each other completely. He remembered the fear he had felt on his first combat mission. Now he felt only confidence. He had good people watching his back. Sergeant never returned to active combat. Instead, she stayed on the. She opened a center for war orphans, human and alien children both. She taught them that strength came in many forms, that warriors could also be builders. Grew up there, eventually becoming a teacher herself. Dr. Jin returned to Earth for 2 years. She needed time to process everything she had seen, everything she had done. When she came back to space, she led a medical research project, combining human resilience with alien technology, creating treatments that saved lives across the galaxy. Captain Min retired from military service. The war had taken too much from him, too many friends lost, too many nightmares, but he did not leave space. Instead, he became an ambassador. He traveled from world to world, building bridges between species, teaching aliens about humanity, teaching humans about the galaxy. Admiral Han stayed in command of the Coalition Defense Fleet. Under his leadership, the military grew strong, strong enough that when other threats appeared, they were ready. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Never again would they face extinction unprepared. 5 years after the war ended, a new distress signal arrived. A distant species under attack by raiders. The Coalition Defense Fleet prepared to respond, but this time the request was specific. It was addressed to the commander, now captain of the advanced cruiser, read the message. She smiled. It was the same smile she had worn when they first answered the distress call. The smile that said she knew the job was dangerous, that she knew people would die, but that she was going anyway because that was what humans did. Set course, she told her crew. Let's go save someone. The ship turned toward distant stars. On the bridge, humans and aliens worked side by side. They were no longer strangers. They were crew. They were warriors. They were the thin line between civilization and chaos. In the war room, a plaque hung on the wall. It listed the names of everyone who died in the war, human and alien both. 900 humans, 2,000 aliens. Each name represented a life, a story, a sacrifice. At the bottom of the plaque, someone had carved words. Nobody knew who, but everyone understood them. They sent a request for aid. We answered. We will always answer. That was humanity's promise to the galaxy, a promise written in blood and kept with steel. They came from a world of monsters and learned to be monsters to monsters, but to their friends, to those they protected, they were something else entirely. They were hope. They accelerated toward the distant system. Whatever waited there, whatever horror needed fighting, they were coming. And the galaxy had learned what that meant. It meant salvation. It meant sacrifice. It meant that somewhere in the darkness, someone was watching, someone who would fight, someone who would die if necessary to protect the innocent. It meant that the distress call would be answered. Always.